I'm gonna say it now. Time 2 is the Duke Nukem Forever of the metal scene.
What a mess.
Metal's biggest melodic scam metal band, I guess, has finally announced that Time 2 is finished. And big surprise, the internet's fucking mad.
Because is it really finished?
I just want to disclaim, we are big fans of the band, love Wintersun, but you know what, as a business, there's a lot to be desired and kind of a lot to be upset about.
Yeah, and as fans, I think we have an opportunity and a responsibility to say what our feelings are.
The band's journey has been filled with a lot of drama and confusion, and it dates back all the way to 2006, believe it or not, when they first revealed the album Time. Now, almost 2 decades later, we really are that far ahead. There's so many time jokes we can make with this. So what's going on with Wintersun? What has been going on with them up to today? To be honest, it's been a whole lot of, in my opinion, eye-rolling drama and big local band energy consisting of absurd excuses, multiple crowdfunding campaigns that have just failed to live up to their promises. A lot of people are upset about it, and rightfully so. Wintersun initially started as a solo project by the Finnish musician Jari after he left the folk metal band Inciferum in 2004.
I remember that, yep.
He went to just go focus on his own endeavors. Cool. A lot of people do that. And it was that same year that he released a debut self-titled record, and that album was insane.
Dude, that album shook the extreme power melodic death metal scene to its core.
It changed,
bro.
It literally changed the game. Honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. It completely changed the landscape of what melodic death metal sounded like.
Yep.
Check this out. This album just influenced countless Scandinavian death metal bands after this. It became the blueprint. We were massive fans. When it came out, what did you think?
This was a time period too where how we consumed music was still very much in an analog way, right? You would only hear about big music things happening in the scene, word of mouth, magazines, things like that. It was still very much an analog thing. This album took the metal world by storm, bro. And I remember
everyone was talking about it.
I remember this one and Necrophagus being 2 of the biggest albums that came out when we were teenagers.
Especially for guitar nerds.
Exactly. The production was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. This was pre Morse Percent BMS. This was pre...
At least them being big.
Yeah, right,
This genre was not big yet.
No.
This made it big. That's just basically to say that Jari is an incredible composer, an amazing musician, and an amazing engineer. And in terms of interfacing with his fans, though, and his work ethic and accountability, there's a lot to be frustrated about.
For sure.
Maybe you should be delivering on your promise to give us Time 2, rather than playing Metallica covers. Just a suggestion. Alternatively, if you've no intention of giving us a new album, just say so. I'm sure your fans would respect you a lot more if you were at least honest about it. We all appreciate that you can't produce a masterpiece overnight, but a decade is a bit much, especially if it was almost finished a year ago.
Soon after the self-titled release, though, Jari started commenting on his official website message boards that his next album to be coming out sometime in the early 2000s. He was hyping it up and claiming that it would be this absolutely massively colossal release, and no one has ever heard anything like it before. That sounds awesome, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you would trust him too, because he just did that.
Yes.
And when they come out with something and they say, yeah, we're going to do it again, sign me up.
Yeah, I'm first in line, right? Well, he claimed that every song would have over 200 or 300 tracks. Something as an audio engineer myself, it sounds incredibly complex, but it's doable. You could definitely pull it off. And it would be awesome to see and hear something like that. He's written a genre-defining record before, so obviously we were all pumped when he announced this game-changing thing.
And didn't question his capability. I don't think anyone ever questioned his musicianship and his production capabilities.
Yep.
At all.
Right.
And that's why I think so much of this has gotten traction.
the fans, us included, got skeptical. Time 2 has a history nearly 2 decades in the making, with multiple crowdfunding campaigns, with not just like a little bit of money, it's a lot of money. It hasn't been just until recently that we got the final announcement that Time 2 is actually done, but with no release date attached to it.
Stick around to the end of the video because there is news that just broke while I am editing this, and you're gonna want to hear that.
It's interesting to me too, like just as a side note, the album Time was recorded in the summer of 2006.
Yeah, just so you guys aren't confused, Time 2 was already recorded at the same time. But the mixing of Time 2 came to a halt in 2014 when I realized my computer was not good.
But we never heard anything from it. So does that mean that now that Time 2 is actually done, he used those recordings? Like went back to them and reused them in some way?
Right, like
or did
those stems or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or did he do something from scratch? I just have so many questions with that. That's very weird to me. Now, Yari claimed for years, this is where we get into the excuses, right? That mixing the project was just far too complicated for him to do, that even the most advanced supercomputers couldn't handle the mixing and the mastering. This was the first excuse. The first excuse, and the most consistently used one today.
You son of a bitch, I hate you, Mom! You!
You at least have your ear to the ground on some mixing and mastering stuff. You've done a little bit of it. You went to school for it at one point.
Yeah, I have a bachelor's in digital media production, and while I don't consider myself like a professional audio engineer, you know, I could just punch so many holes through that argument, bro.
It all comes down to the fact that, like, you know, he's claiming that his souped up MacBook Pro can't even handle this. It crashes due to plugins and so many layers and the size of the files and everything. But as an audio engineer myself, this makes me cringe too, because not only is it so easy to consolidate tracks to save CPU, you can group things together in ways that saves your machine so much heartache. Everyone in the audio engineering community knows this. It's not an excuse.
No. 2006, it's come a long way in the, 17, 18 years since that's been a thing. Stuff that we have now is much better and more capable. But I mean, he put out a record that sounded amazing. There were no hardware limitations for what he needed to do.
And that's an amazing point. That's really the main point that I think everyone needs to remember, is he is capable of making amazing music. And the part of the puzzle that really bothers me here, and it's to this point, right? He raised over $500,000 during crowdfunding campaigns to invest in a powerful computer
A house
for production.
the size of a house?
Now introducing Yari's computer. Say hello, everybody.
Like what?
That is so much money. My $3,000 recording setup can easily process hundreds and hundreds of tracks, consolidate them, and use them for mixing and mastering. That is 100% bullshit.
Dude, for $500,000, he could have built Amazon Web Center at that. Like with that's insane, dude.
That's one, crowdfunding. And not only that, there are professional recording studios out there with plenty of fantastic equipment, right? More than adequate enough to handle a record of this magnitude.
Unpopular opinion here, but if he really needed his own studio to complete Time 2, then Time 1 wouldn't exist. Nuclear Blast already bought him a really high-end computer to handle all of the orchestra. So I really don't get why he can't just go to the studio where he recorded Time 1 and record the live bits and mix master at home. Time 1 sounded great. Just do it in the same way rather than having inconsistencies between the two records.
So to think about that these expensive studios could easily be within the budget of an astronomical number, especially at the time, like $500,000, that does not add up. And the fact that the fans continue to support this bugs the shit out of me. And it's sad to say too, the project stayed dormant for quite a long time with little to no update with the production process.
That's asinine, dude.
So let's paint a landscape here. It's 2012, Nuclear Blast Records. They're knocking on doors, frustrated with the band's output and production process. So much that the label just said, hey, why don't we split this into Time Part 1 and Time Part 2? Kind of meet him in the middle there, right? So Yari released Part 1 as soon as possible after this decision was made, and then we finally saw the release of Time Part 1. So check this out. Now it's important to understand, like if you think about the timeline, right? Time
Timeline.
1 was the project that he essentially supposedly started working on back in 2006, right? It's known that most of those recordings that year were not used. So the pieces of music that he saved were these from Time 2 also, and also part of Time 1.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions there that I don't really understand, and I'm curious how much of those sessions made it into the Time 1 release.
Guys, don't get confused, okay? Time 2 was already recorded the same time as Time 1, but the mixing of Time 2 came to a halt in 2014 when I realized I could not finish the album with my non-supercomputer that requires quantum CPU processes.
Yari,
Already stated in 2014 that I've already stopped working on Time 2, and I kept my word. Haven't worked on it one bit since then. I'm a man of my word.
Dave, I thought you recently said Time 2 is 90% done. Confused math face.
And during all of this, I don't understand why Nuclear Blast did not drop the band. You're playing with people's money at this point, and it's pretty awesome, sure, that we got a new Wintersun album 8 years after their debut.
This was just kind of the era where solo musicians and, you know, small teams of people are releasing these monumental records. And I think Wintersun really was one of the first. But for them to kind of be like the first across the finish line, and then they just like, oh yeah, look at us, you know, like they're like walking around all confident, while all these other bands that have, you know, 1 to 3 people in the team are like just passing them up. Dude, you got to keep your foot on the gas if you want to continue to be relevant. I wish that this video was not us complaining about this guy.
Me too, that's the thing. And I love that you said that because I love the band, but as fans, we're annoyed.
It's like there are people who have done laps around Yari. Their albums might not have sounded as huge or like, you know, 400,000 vocal tracks or whatever, but like some of my favorite bands and records have been from small teams that just like got together and just, let's get it out there. They haven't let off the gas at all, man. And it's like, that's what I want from a great act.
And here's the thing is you as a fan, you believe in the artist and you're showing up for them. He's not showing up for his fans.
No.
He's got an open pocket and he's taking advantage. And that's what pisses me off.
It's got to be reciprocal. It's got to be reciprocal.
You're building a community, dude. As an artist, you have a responsibility to play that line in a responsible way. Back when he recorded Time 1, he had some pressure put on him, sure, and he obviously didn't like it. But he showed that he can record, mix, and master a pretty damn good, actually great, melodic death metal album without a beastly fucking quantum computer. So we got a nice happy ending here, right, with Time 1. We're not done with the story yet. It actually gets more infuriating. It sounds like we're on our way to Time 2 possibly happening right after 2012, right?
I don't know. So.
No, the fans were still flooding him with messages and constant questions in regards to the progress of Time 2.
Yet another sign of Yari's arrogance and poor customer service skills. This is what he posts when somebody has, you know, some critical thinking and some questions about where their money is going.
I have to deal with this shit, dude. Oh, God. People asking questions and thinking.
But they were met with just computer capability excuses.
I was a bit naive at the beginning. I didn't realize that making those orchestrations would take so much computer power. Actually, I didn't have much experience with any experience at all to record music with computers. After the first album, I got my first computer programs and sample libraries, and I started learning on the go. I learned quickly, but I also realized quickly that this stuff needs a lot of power, dude. These orchestrations are usually made with much bigger computers, like the soundtracks composer computers use. Like 10 computers linked together, dude. I could only afford one computer and I had to work with that. It was time consuming. The process was very slow. It took a lot of time.
Here's some perspective, dude. We're gonna throw a bunch of amazing metal albums that have been put out over the last, say, 10 years with killer orchestrations. So we have these killer albums, right, with complex orchestrations, but Yari can't mix a record in his own studio setup. He's already done it. He's proven that he can.
Right.
He's full of shit, dude.
Liar, whore, and you know it.
And I mean, I'm thinking too, like around this time, you would have access to, you know, a few $1,000s could get you a great computer, right? A few $1,000s would get you the East West Quantum Leaps VST package, which at that time was the gold standard for orchestration.
I didn't even think about that. You could hire an orchestra for like 40 grand. That's a drop in the bucket of $500,000.
Of $500,000. That's crazy, dude. Yeah.
Like, there are plenty of ways to consolidate large projects. These excuses are lazy, and there are so many ways to get around processing power, but why bother, right? Because let's just let the fans pay for it. The most controversial part of this entire story, it starts in the summer of 2017. Yari's realized the only way that he can complete the production of Time 2 is to have his own private studio headquarters paid for by the fans. And we're talking not just like 50K or something like that, or 100K, something that's kind of reasonable for a studio. €750,000. That's how much money we're talking. And mind you, this has multiple bedrooms, a kitchen, a sauna, completely unnecessary for something like this, for a melodic death metal band.
Building a professional studio for Wintersun would give us the freedom to make music non-stop. It would upgrade our album sound significantly, and more importantly, speed up the album making process significantly. That would even raise our live game with proper pre-production, able to tweak the live sounds and set up properly. We would sound pretty incredible live, dude. You couldn't even imagine. We would also be able to rehearse more, and that would allow us to be able to play live more and come to places where we normally have not been able to come. The studio would allow us to have more time for everything.
Dude, this just feels like when rich assholes. Yeah, I bought my third Porsche yesterday, and it's like, dude, no one wants to hear that, bro.
No.
There's a thing called humility.
99% of all metal musicians are struggling in many ways, economically and otherwise. The fact that you are signed with Nuclear Blast has given you tremendous advantages over tens of thousands of metal bands. You go on high-profile tours, get massive exposure from the marketing department, done by the label, and a lot of other perks compared to other bands. Virtually all bands have to find creative solutions to fund their albums, recordings, tours, and equipment, because almost none of them make any decent money or any money at all. Most of them actually lose money playing in a band. With my band, we always find a solution to what we want to do, whether it's a headline tour or an album recording or whatever creative project we want to do. And we do it without any major label funding or Kickstarter campaigns. We just put in an insane amount of work ourselves, including backing projects financially ourselves, hoping it will pay off in the end. My advice is to stop blaming the label and find creative ways to solve the challenges your band has.
I need €750,000 to have my sick sauna and my fucking...
And he realized he not only needed one crowdfunding campaign, but 3 to cover the cost of this absolutely ludicrously insane space and reach his ultimate goal of €750,000.
Why didn't people put their foot down, though? I don't understand.
I don't understand it either.
Is it like a cult-like mentality thing?
Well, you know what? If you actually think about it, let's back up a bit. The premise was kind of built on the fact that if you, as a fan, if you donate, you're part of this thing in history, right? So
okay.
And the donations probably aren't a ton of money. They're probably, $10 to $50 tiers to upwards of $1,000 if you have the money for it, right? Mm-hmm. So you're essentially investing in this guy's studio, which you enable the band to become more productive with new music and give them the tools that they need to finish records like Time 2.
Side note, what if I'm an investor and want to actually invest in this? Do I have more say than the peons that only donated $10 when I donated $25,000? What do I as a stakeholder get out of this? Has that ever even been brought up?
If I'm subscribing to Netflix, right? You're getting content every month. You know what you're getting with Netflix. Mm-hmm. You know what you're getting with Hulu and Spotify and things like that. If this is a subscription model, I better be getting something out of it, not podcasts and cooking videos and ridiculous. I'm not kidding. They did a cooking video.
Should be worth noting that this guy's not even in the band anymore. Cool.
As a byproduct of these donations, right, you should get a new album in return for that money, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's where we get to Forest of Seasons. So that was basically behind another paywall. I'm calling it a paywall in quotes
Yeah.
of another crowdfunding campaign, which he clearly can show that he wrote and recorded and produced an album instead of doing time 2. And he did it in virtually no time at all, honestly, proving that he can release music again without a supercomputer, without an insane studio.
The contradictions are just so blatant.
And you know what's insane, right? So the crowdfund eventually earned over 460,000 euros, which was over half of the ultimate goal. That is so much money. Where's the content, right? First question, right? Did they use the money of the first crowdfunding campaign to start the construction of the studio, and did we get updates on the construction? No, not that we know of. We've seen the plans.
People have their expectations and assumptions all wrong, dude. We didn't raise enough money for the Wintersun headquarters, like not even close. You know, there's like a lot of taxes and expenses, especially in Finland, dude. That's weird, because in this fucking budget layout, it shows that those are accounted for. They work that into the fucking formula. What?
No studio.
So this was going to be a studio built from the ground up, foundation to roof for this album.
For time 2,
Right.
and also to faster produce records for their fans. Which sounds cool if you make the content.
Well, that's the thing, dude, is like, there's no, like, where's the accountability?
I'm waiting for the Netflix documentary. Seriously.
The Vice documentary.
Yeah, I have they released any new music in the following years after 2017 since receiving that massive crowdfunding achievement? No. We've got the announcement of time 2, right? But we have no release date. This is fucking unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I don't understand how the fans are okay with this. And have they provided any information what the money has actually been used for? No. In fact, we've gotten numerous social media posts from Yari with like some stink in his fucking tone.
When you divide the hours I work for the crowdfunding and the products I produce to be sold in the crowdfunding, I got the minimum wage, dude. Imagine that. These are facts, dude. I'm still literally a bedroom musician, dude. Wintersun is not even a big band, not even close. And I'm like not complaining at all. I'm very happy to make music with a minimum wage. But like, it does mean that I can't do miracles and big productions quickly at home alone. But new albums are in the making and they sound way better than Warning. Cheers!
Basically saying that it's none of the fans' business what the band does with the campaign money.
Oof. That's a mega yikes, bro.
It is, and you should be accountable for that.
Wow, dude, how does it feel to be wrong? All the money from the crowdfunding has been going back into the music production. Where else would I put the money, dude? I don't own like a car or anything fancy. I love making music and that's where the money goes. No, I actually make very clear statements. You just let imaginations fly and made false assumptions. And that was demonstrated here clearly. I can't help with that, sorry. Wrong, dude, not even half that. And this is the issue. People like have their facts wrong in their heads and they keep spreading fake news. Dude, it's like you're spreading lies about me. Again, as stated above, wrong. The crowdfunding money did not go into my salary. That was just a metaphor about how much I actually earned from the crowdfunding, and that was a minimum wage, dude. And all that has gone back into the music production. I earn my salary for bills and food in other ways, not OnlyFans yet. Here's the problem again highlighted. People make crazy false assumptions from my statements, and then they keep spreading this BS in the comments, dude.
Fool me once. Shame on you.
It's so bizarre, like, and I understand that now is a great time to change, or at least attempt to change the landscape of how artists get paid, how artists get their royalties and make money.
Agreed.
And things like that. Absolutely, this is the time for that. This is not the way to navigate that. This is almost multi-level marketing bullshit.
100% is. You're taking advantage of fans that are diehard into you. I mean, you spend your money however you want.
Yes, it is your money.
Let me tell you a story because I was a victim of a scam last summer. My wife and I, we were in the market for a new scaly pet. We wanted a lizard, and we ended up getting a beard. It ends in a good ending, but we wanted a fiery red bearded dragon. We got an awesome one upstairs. His name's Balder.
Hello, this is Lotta.
Since these are more rare than like the typical yellowy bearded dragons that you see, we decided to go through like a legit breeder. So we found one. Things looked like they were fairly legit, right? The guy had a website with paying customers and pictures and everything. So we send the first payment, and the first thing that happens is he asks for more money for shipping.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty weird. And I was like, no, I already paid. This was the agreed upon price. Please honor the deal or I'm going to back out of it. He agreed. So I was like, okay, cool. That's fine. Hour or so goes by, and then I get a picture of the box at the post office, and he says that he needs $200 non-refundable pet insurance.
Okay.
I told him no. And long story short, because I looked it up, there's no such thing as non-refundable insurance.
Holy shit.
He was not a breeder. It was a scam. And this scam is continuously asking for money for the original purchase, and it's a tactic that scammers have been using for years. Sound familiar? Ask any pro producer. They would kill to have that kind of budget, and they would be putting out 100, 1,000 times the output.
If you handed any of our like musician producer friends a check for that, they would knuckle down so fucking
Change their
hard
lives.
and just pump out amazing shit. I mean, I'd like to think that we know decent enough people that they wouldn't just be like, I'm gonna go spend it on cocaine and you know, dolphins and
Dude,
tigers and
if
shit.
that, not for nothing, if that happened to us, if we raised $500,000, that would be something that would be like, okay, we need to come up with a content schedule that our fans are happy with. We need to be releasing that on a range that it makes sense. I would feel 100% accountable.
Yeah.
And make sure that those dollars are building a community that we all feel a part of and proud of.
Yeah.
And that being said, like, if there's no pride, will Time 2 be any good? And Wintersun has stated many times, right, that they are a full-time band, and their output speaks volumes to the contrary.
Yeah.
Think about Ensiferum. They've put out so many records.
Yeah.
Wintersun has not put out much, and they have way more money than Ensiferum, I'm sure.
Yeah.
If you're gonna sell us a crowdfunding campaign on the basis of using our money to become a more productive band, meaning a band that releases new music more regularly, I think it's only fair that we see some kind of output that's tied to our investment in you as an artist. Yeah. Not a slap in the face with yet another crowdfunding campaign. And not snarky comments either, basically insinuating that we're dumb or we don't understand the process when we're actually just calling you on your bullshit.
The fact that he talks down to his fans is wild. That's wild to me. Like customer service 101, they're always right. And you don't have to like it, but that is customer service and hospitality 101. If someone's giving you money, you cannot be an asshole. And the fact that he's taking their money and he's acting like an asshole and being like, well, it's my money now. That is like the most disrespectful thing. There's zero respect to the people that want him to do well. These fans, these audience members, they want him to succeed.
And you know what sucks is it puts a bad taste in your mouth for bands that want to do what the fans of Wintersun want. There are so many bands that are outputting content and aren't paid nearly as much. It's just a bummer. And I do think it, like I said, I do think it's kind of cool to be part of musical history of a band. That's a rad opportunity. And they've done very little though to make us feel included or like the funding is going to what it should. And that's the biggest problem. No matter how good Time 2 is or actually turns out to be, it is never going to live up to the hype. I can already see the YouTube thumbnails. Time 2, worth the hype? With the stupid fate, we're probably gonna do that. Like, there's no possible way any album, I don't care what album you wrote, could live up to 2 decades of this kind of build up. And I coined this earlier, Time 2 is like the Duke Nukem Forever of metal.
I love that.
100% is. But hey, I'd love to be proven wrong, or maybe it might just be time to hang it up for Wintersun and Yari. What do you guys think in the comments? Do you think that this is just wankery bullshit? Do you even care about Wintersun?
And breaking news as of today, January 19th, when I am editing this. This is the latest and greatest. You should pause it if you want to read it. He's giving out a digital package of Time 2. It's going to be different from the physical version. It's just more nonsense, dude. Like, the digital versions, like, who gives a shit, really? Like, if you want to go after a current trend, you should be, like, releasing, like, crazy, like, vinyl things and putting money towards that. That might be a better investment just off the cuff, right? I don't know, man. Like, it's so, like, who wants fucking Wintersun wallpapers and, like, icons for your desktop, like, my computer? I'm gonna change my computer thing to the Wintersun logo. It's, like, weird, dude. I don't... Whatever, man. I don't fucking care anymore.
Check out some of our other videos right here. We're doing a new essay format where we check out things in bands and talk about topics. Let us know what you think.
Go with the gods, Forge Mates. It's time to go.